figured out how to cast her phone to that TV. I tell you, there's not an adult in the room that can do that. Next time we have technical problems, we're calling Sulaiman. She's going to come figure it out for us. We added an extra section to the Journeys series. I liked what Pastor Ian and Pastor Liz have done over the last couple of days, and I just wanted to kind of cap it off. Not necessarily looking back, but more looking forward. We have a lot of things that we can look back on, and we can see our journey up until now. But if we focus on those things, then we'll lose sight of what we're called to be, and it's to be people that are moving forward, expanding and growing and nurturing and strengthening the kingdom of God here in this place. So what I want to do is I want to set our eyes focused on forward. But if we can't learn from where we came from, then what was the journey for? So that's the context for it. We're going to be exclusively in Hebrews chapter 10. If you have your Bible, you want to open it up. Hebrews chapter 10. If you don't have a Bible, we have 2 stacks of them back there, one in English, one in Spanish. Grab one, write on it, highlight it, take it home, make it yours. The Word of God is for everyone. All right. I normally like to start with a funny story. I'm going to skip that today. Let's see if we can throw some humor in other places. One of the things that is important about moving forward is understanding that it doesn't happen at the pace or the speed that we expect. No matter what you're doing, right? You could be a person who's decided late in life you're going to learn the guitar. You better be prepared that you're not going to be playing up here on the worship team after one lesson. It's just not going to happen. I only have ever met one person who started playing the guitar after 50 and actually got really good at it. Because it's harder. The older we get, the harder it is for us to learn stuff. Because everywhere we've been, and everything that we've ever learned is ingrained so deeply in us that we fight against ourselves when we try to learn new things. That's even more true when it comes to what we teach and what we're supposed to be using the Word of God for. All too often, I see a lot of places, I talk about this all the time, where this is a weapon that's wielded relentlessly outside of the scope that God intended. And as I'm always talking about, we have to be a church that's different. Because if somebody doesn't start, then it just is going to stay. So we here at BCF have started. Looking back on history, there are so many things that we can look at to show you that it is a marathon, not a sprint. In America alone, there are 2 things that we can learn from that prove that unequivocally. The first is what's called the big black eye in American history, and that is slavery. They call it the institution of slavery, because that's technically what it was. And our country knew it was a problem when our country decided to become a country. The reason that the First Continental Congress took so long to draft the original Constitution and Bill of Rights was this topic. And there was a, let's meet across the table and come up with it. So they did the power of thirds. You counted how many slaves were in the state, and you got a third of their population towards your population. They value slavery as 33% human in the Constitution. So if you had 1 million slaves, 333,000 of them counted towards your state's population. That was the middle ground that was met. Then we went on to have a terrible stain in our history known as slavery. Then came the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln. By the time Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War happened, yes, the Civil War is about slavery. If you want to tell me it's about states' rights, go back and read your history. It was about the states' rights to own slaves. But the truth is, there were 2 moments where slavery was abolished. 1862 and 1864. Made illegal. Started with the Emancipation Proclamation, which we put a lot of weight behind, but it technically was not a legal document. It did nothing for the law. It just morally released the slaves. It was a precursor to the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment was passed in 1864, April 1864. And it had 2 short sentences. Section 1, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. In a nutshell, that's the abolition of slavery. It is illegal to own a human being, And it's illegal to incarcerate them against their will unless they've been duly convicted. The second part gives Congress the legal authority to enforce and expand on that law, which they have done multiple times. It was passed in 1864, April 1864. It did not be ratified at the federal level until December 1865. 20 months. It took 100 years just to get there. You think that when you see the systems of government work that it's a done deal, right? And technically it was. But we have this interesting law in the country where 2/3 of the states have to ratify it as law for it to be a federal law. It took 20 months for that to happen. In the 70s, and yes, there's a point to this, in 1972, the Equal Rights Amendment was passed. And it was ratified and passed in both houses and sent to the states to ratify. 1972. Today, it is still not ratified. We talk about Equal Rights Amendment in this country because it was a landmark thing that we did. However, it is still not an amendment to the Constitution. Nevada was one of the long-standing holdouts. They ratified it in 2017. There's one state that's going to ratify it in 2020. That's Virginia. The entirety of my life, people have stood in the way of equal rights. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Nothing moves quick, right? And you can't change the wills, hearts, and minds and actions of people with an instant snap. That's important because now we're coming up on a 1-year moment. And our goal was to be who we say we are at all times. And I feel like we have achieved that goal immensely. We are not a church that stands in judgment of others. We are a church that receives judgment from the one God that can do it. That's been a great start. That's been a great start. If we just accomplished that, and we accomplished so much more, but if we just accomplished that, what a start. But it's not enough. It's not enough. As we continue to go on this journey, we have no idea what the road looks like. We have no idea. Have you ever been on a country road you've never been on before? You have no idea what's going to happen? I have a few times, and I've left a car on one of those roads. I don't know if it's still there. I literally left the keys in the front seat and walked away from it because there was no getting it out of where I got it stuck. Not for the worth of that car, anyway. These moments are important because it tells us we celebrate the Equal Rights Amendment like it passed in the 70s. We celebrate it. And most people, you may have heard for the first time right now that it is not an amendment to the Constitution yet. Congress and the Senate for both parties have done a wonderful job keeping it alive because it technically expired. And they've continued to vote to keep it alive. If you don't know what the Equal Rights Amendment is, it is a sexual equal rights amendment. It gives women the same rights as men. It is still the law that my gender has more rights than the other. That's the holdup. It can be infuriating sometimes. For me personally, I'm a celebrator and a nurturer and a let's get more women in leadership. We need women in leadership. We need more and we need more right now. I don't care what you say. I can prove it to you because look around. If you look around this room and you see anyone that you feel is beneath you, you've got a heart condition that we need to deal with spiritually. I promise I'll say something funny. There we go. See? I told you. Change is hard. I gotta say, change is hard, but it is critical. If you trace the history of the church, it has changed so much, right? What Hebrews 10 gives us, and part of it that we're going to be discussing today, what it gives us is it gives us this plan that isn't a map and it isn't a strategy. It's a plan for your heart to move forward. So if you'll open up to chapter 10, starting with verse 19. Here's what we're going to be focusing in on in this passage, because I'm going to skip a bulk of it. It's about stop sinning, because none of this will work if you don't sin. So I've given you the sermon on the middle part that I'm going to skip. Don't sin, it gets in the way of this, okay? Starting in verse 19, what we're going to be focusing in on is the we have, so let us, right? If we focus in on this verse and we really understand what the writer is trying to say, and the writer of Hebrews is one of those that's very easy to understand, but we're at a disadvantage because we don't know the author, for sure. I had a healthy debate with 3 other people. All 4 people had a different opinion of who the author was. Here's what doesn't matter, that. You can't read Hebrews without knowing that it is the revealed and inspired Word of God. But it was written specifically for the Hebrew people, so why is that? And why does it matter to us if it's written for the Hebrew people? Because the Hebrew people are the people that God built us on the backside. We cannot appreciate why we are here if we don't appreciate what the Hebrew people went through. You don't know what the Hebrew people are? It's Israelites, Jewish people. Hebrews 10:19 jumps right out. Therefore, brothers and sisters, since we have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by a new and living way opened up for us through the curtain, that is his body. And since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and with full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience and having our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Okay, my first thought on this passage. 1, I've heard 2 sermons in my life using this passage that was, don't miss church. Our attendance numbers are down, and you guys are kind of flaky, and get your butts in church. That's not what this passage is saying. It's saying specifically in our time together, but that doesn't mean here. Here is important. Sunday morning is critical, because how are we going to get to know each other? How are we going to worship together? How are we going to do these things together? And how are we going to be united together if we don't get together? Right? So this is important, and I will tell you that I know all the things that would keep you out of church because they used to keep me out of church. I know them all. And here's the other thing. I don't have a problem if you miss church. I don't have a problem with it. If you go away, we're going to 1 in 99 and someone's going to come looking for it. Life is life, right? We have vacations, we have families, we have these things. When we make church, the corporate church, the gathering together a priority, it affects our heart. That's all I have to say on the matter. It's not a guilt trip. Be here. It's amazing. We're doing great things here. And we've got more planned. We're going to talk about that in our celebration service. We're going to have a little bit of fun. So let's go over the we haves. Can we go back to 19? Okay, so let's start with that. Therefore, brothers and sisters, since we have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by a new and living way opened up to us through the curtain, that is his body, since we have, so we're going to stop there. Leave it up there though? Yep. So we have this great confidence that we have access to a holy place. The reason that that's an important message is the way that people can get to a place where they think that they have the idea of how they're supposed to approach or enter into God's presence. Right? Because a lot of that, especially for the Hebrews, who were coming from a place where the tabernacle was where God was. They had a physical manifestation of exactly where they could find God. And most of them could never go in it. So the Israelites created an outer court where you could be near, right? We draw near to God. In Hebrew language, that means to get as close to the inside of the holy place of the tabernacle as you possibly can. We draw near. But here's something that's very interesting that happened. And this is where the debate happens. If you have any friends that are still practicing Jewish people, they will tell you that nothing changed. Everything before Christ is the same as what it was. Which means that only God exists in the most holy of places. Every synagogue in the world has a very holy place where only the high priest, the rabbi, can go in. Still today. Might be his office, might be something, but they have a place. It's to emulate the tabernacle. And what Jesus is saying, what the author of Hebrews is saying is, we have this place, we have access to it at all times. You don't have to keep making treks across the desert. You don't have to worry about that because of what Jesus did with the new covenant made all that go away. The writer of Hebrews is saying, this store is closed, we're out of business. God is not in this place. God is here. Right? Here's a striking fact. God was present while you were getting ready to come to church today. Okay? God was present in your car when you drove here. God wasn't sitting here waiting for you to get here so he could reveal himself. I'm not saying that church isn't sacred, it's not a holy place. It is because we are a holy people that make it up. We have access to the holiest of holies because of the grace and the sacrifice of the cross. We are called to live, and Hebrews says this, leading up to this, we are called to live in three separate worlds. Right? So I'm going to compartmentalize it for you. We are called to live in the physical world, the tangible world. I can touch, feel, smell. And that's the world that we are simply the most comfortable with. We can see it, we can touch it, we can smell it, we can taste it, we're good, right? All of our concerns are handled by our physical responses. Then we also live in the mental world, our thoughts and our brain, right? Those two typically work well in them. And we typically work well in them. Where we struggle is that spirit, where the spirit dwells. And a lot of it, we struggle because of us. We have set these parameters for what it means to be holy. We have set these parameters for what is holy. And all too often when we're doing that, we're forgetting that it's us that's called to be holy. We are a holiness people. Does that mean that we're only that way when we're in certain places or doing certain things? God has called us into this holy place because we're the ones. We are called to let that holy place dwell within us. We can't go seek it out and achieve it and hang on to it and physically touch and smell it and think about it and it makes sense. No, this is way different. This is why it's hard for the three worlds to live together. So the next let us is that let us, since we have a great priest. So this was the important part about that, right? Remember I said only one person was allowed to go into the holy place. It was the high priest, right? So that's why a lot of the prophecy surrounding around Jesus talks about him as the high priest. The only high priest we need moving forward is this high priest. And by his sacrifice and actions on the cross and him being resurrected, we have this high priest in our lives. Not in our homes, not in our... He's there because we are the vessels. Right? Have you ever seen how rural villages in other parts of the world get water? They have a group of people who take pots, usually clay, usually made in the sun, nothing special. They fill up water and they bring it back. They usually have to go hundreds of yards for this because they can't build their villages next to water. Right? So one of the things that gets talked about a lot, and there's a couple of passages in Scripture that talk about broken vessels. Right? There's a great song called Broken Vessels. What God has decided to do is instead of having this perfect place where he resides in broken vessels. And if you've ever had to walk 200 yards with a cracked pot trying to get as much of that water back to your village because water is life, then you know that it is a constant rush of chaos to not let life leak out through our brokenness. We're called to be those broken vessels. But what one wonderful thing that happens when we allow God to occupy our broken vessel, the leaks start to go away. And it doesn't matter how broken it is. Look, can I tell you, you can look at your life and think that it is completely shattered and irreparable. There's too much dust, there's still going to be holes and leaks. Not if God's in there. God uses the broken things of this world to make it amazing. If you look through all of the leadership callings in the Bible, there's not a lot of perfect people that God called. That's important. That's important today because one of the biggest obstacles that people have in their spiritual life is they're not worthy. Can I just tell you today, no matter where you've been, no matter what you do, no matter what other people or other Christians or other churches might think of you, you are not worthy. That's where Jesus came. We're not worthy. We become worthy vessels when we allow God to reside in us. That's the truth today. Now I want to talk a little bit about the drawing near part. Because it says, let us draw near. Right? That's one of those phrases that I can give you the physical like I just did. That phrase comes from getting as close to the tabernacle as possible. That's not applicable in today's day and age. God's called us to draw near to Him. It kind of gets taken out of context a lot. Right? But how many of you have ever been a part of a church or yourself been a part of a very legalistic way of thinking? A lot of you are not going to answer boldly, and I appreciate that. But a lot of us have that. And legalism is one of those things. Let me just explain legalism to you. Study the Pharisees in the Scripture, and you'll get Jesus' example of what legalism is. When we take the truth and we bend it and mold it and add to it and take from it and we create our own thing because this is how we interpret what's happening. When we add ourselves to something that needs nothing else, we're in danger of legalism. I talk a lot about checklist Christianity. If you wake up every morning and you say, I'm not gonna watch porn, I'm not gonna cuss, I'm not gonna smoke or drink, and you've got this checklist, and if I do that, then I'm a holy person living a holy life. That's not what Scripture tells us. Scripture tells us that if we allow God to work in our lives, He'll change our thinking and we'll barely even notice it. I used to use the F word like most people use It was my nervous tick word. I said it so much, I can't even, and I'll never forget the day that I just didn't focus on stopping using it. It just happened. God changed my thinking. He changed what my heart was telling me. He changed the things that I wanted people to see in me. I don't want people to see me as the Amish guy that lives off-grid because I think that that's what Scripture tells me. No, I love Netflix too much. I want people to see the broken vessel that God's using to do something with. My brokenness is part of who I am. I never shy away from it. I don't celebrate it. If I could go back and undo some of the things that I've experienced in my life, you bet I'd undo them. But at what cost? They're molded in the fabric of who we are. And it doesn't matter what it is. Legalism gets in the way of that. Legalism says, I got enough glue, I'm going to help God. Legalism, in a word, says we're playing God. And that is the thing that keeps us from drawing near. Drawing near means drawing near. How do we draw near to God? We draw near to God simply by being open and submissive, there's the word nobody likes, to His truth in our life. Submitting is the hardest thing in the world. Absolutely the hardest thing in the world. You might have a personal checklist. You might not even realize you're using it. You can say it's okay. It's okay to have that personal focus to work on what you're working on. If it wasn't okay, we wouldn't have 12-step programs. We have to do work. But there is zero. If there were an actual number smaller than zero, I would use it right here. But there is zero difference between checklist Christianity and our own personal conditions. Our own personal conditions are easily the biggest roadblock that's going to be in any road that we try and traverse this year. I want to be a part of this, but I like to this church, but I'll come to this church, but I won't do this because these personal conditions are the same thing as that legalism that we think is pulling us nearer, but actually it's pushing us away. And what we're showing people when we have those conditions is that we have control of our spiritual life. And that's the problem. It doesn't come together for us because we have to give up the thing that we love so much, which is control. The number one reason people don't believe in Jesus Christ today, right now, is they have to give up control. They have a misunderstanding of what it means to give that control up. Because I still have to go to work, and I still have to pay my bills, and I still get to choose what I watch on Netflix. And I might watch Charlie and the Chocolate Factory now when I get home, because I saw the beginning. How can you, I saw something about Gladiator, and I went home yesterday and watched Gladiator. I'm like, I'm not usually sold on advertising, but it's been working with me. Now I'm going to have to watch Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
We'll ask you next week.
Yeah, well, she'll just put a different one up. All right, let's go back. So, let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and full assurance of the faith that it brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience and having our bodies washed with pure water. When we submit ourselves to that truth, we talked about it a lot this year. Malachi 5, about that purifying process where the trials that we go through heat up the impurities in our heart and then God can scrape them right off the top. We want that scrape. That's exactly what the author of Hebrews is talking about. We have to allow the work that God does in our lives to actually work without trying to control it. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. Let us hold on to hope, right? We have hope. We all have hope. Every single day, all day, we have hope. There's truth, right? It doesn't matter what you have hope in. If you're a football fan and your team is playing right after church, you have hope that the other team is going to suck or their bus breaks down or whatever. Whatever it takes, whatever advantage, whatever. I think most people's team played yesterday, right? We're the 49ers with Ravens. Yeah, I mean, I don't follow football, so it's been like since 95 or something, since they pretty I have no allegiance, so whatever your football team is, I don't like it. I have zero support from this church with my favorite team, so why would I support that? Yeah. Thank you for the long run. They won 3-0 yesterday. Yeah, see, thank you. I told Crystal I'm going to go join the fan club for the Rio 1868s because you know those people like soccer and can talk about it. I talk about two things with my wife, and she's such a great wife, right? So I talk about bowling and soccer. Two things that she could live her whole life without hearing about. The funny part about that is she's the one that got me into soccer. When I met her, she was still playing competitively. I went to all her games, indoor, outdoor, it didn't matter. I even started playing on her team, on one of her co-ed teams. She got me into this sport. And then when I bought into it, she bailed. Her 2019 resolution was to watch soccer, learn about Chelsea, and be able to talk to me about it. She made it 27 minutes into one game. And I loved every one of those minutes. It was awesome. It's calling us to not just hang on to hope, it's calling us to hang on to hope together. It's saying, let us, not let me. Let us, not let you. Everything about this verse is about us, right? That's so important because one of the things that he talks about here is about how we need to stay hanging out together. Whatever we're doing, if we're having lunch or if we're having a small group or if we're at church or if it's, coffee and donuts on a Sunday morning, let us do that together. We can do nothing alone. Everything that we did in 2019, we did because we did it together. There were days that I put in 17 hours and there was somebody else here that entire time. They may not have put in 17 hours with me because this was my job, not theirs. But one of the things I remember about building this place is I never did it alone. Ever. I saw God move move in people's lives. I'm not going to name him, but I had somebody tell me a week before the launch that they would never, ever come to church. Second highest attendance rate at VCF in 2019. And it's not because of some thing that was said or some magical sentence that got through. It's because it matters. And people can see that it matters when we show it. The challenge ahead of us for 2020 is that we're showing it wherever we're at, whatever we do. It's easy to lose sight, right? For us that work here, we never lose sight. Our entire lives are encompassed by this. That's not a complaint. I've never been more fulfilled in my life. Ever. And you guys know how I feel about my girls. You know. I've never been more fulfilled in my life. Even the bad days. Even the rough days. Love it. So, let us hang on to hope. Let us hang on to it. Because if we're all hanging on to it, people are going to see what we're hanging on to. That is more important than any one thing you can physically do to grow in your maturity and spiritual growth. That is more important than anything on your list, anything you've ever done, is if people can see the hope, the united hope in your life, and you see it. When it clicks, you know what I'm talking about. You can have the best prayer life in the world, and that's very rewarding, and my goodness, we need more of that. But the moment you see the light change in someone's eyes, you'll never forget it. Never forget it. The next thing he calls us to hold, to let us consider, that we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Not giving up meeting together, as there are some in the habit of doing, talking to most of you. But encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. So this one is important. Let us consider, right, how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Let us take that hope and turn it into love so that we can serve other people. Hear that. If you want to know where hope together, serve together, love together came from, we're there right now. Let us consider how we can show our hope in a way that shows people love and loves them and encourages them. This matters. And what matters is that we are not a place that tells you you can't be here for this reason or another. That's a good start. And I know that sometimes that makes some people uncomfortable, but that's okay. Be uncomfortable because we're following Scripture. Nowhere in Scripture does it tell us that Jesus gives us the right to hate someone for any reason. And yet we do. We all have hate in our hearts for one reason or another. There wouldn't be things like mass shootings and slavery as an institution if there was not hate in the world. And anytime something like that happens, the church now is in the habit of chiming in. You know my stance on politics. The worst law that's ever been signed in my era is allowing churches to be political. I hate it. Because we are called to something higher than our political beliefs. Our political beliefs stem from where you were born and you had no control over that. We are called to remove hatred from our lives because if we don't, how can we say we know Jesus? You might know of him, but if you're walking with hatred in your hearts, you don't know him. And when we chime in on these political debates that throw hate out, I don't care what they are, we don't know him. We are pushing him away instead of drawing near to him. And those are big topics. I can use those as a battering ram all day long, but in the little things. Think about the little acts of hate that we do. I talked about them a few weeks ago. We do little acts of hate, and social media has made it so easy to hate with no feelings about it. You can tell someone you don't like them, and you'll walk away and you'll feel icky because you said that out loud, even though you meant it. We experienced that this week. I got to witness somebody tell someone straight to their face that they didn't like them. It made me want to crawl into a closet. And the worst part was, it was my family talking to another member of my family. We're called to be different than that. The beautiful part about that story is the person that said it is not a believer, not even for a minute, not even close. The person that she said it to is a believer and is serving the Lord. And the way she handled it was amazing. She said, I love you. We're going to fix this, whatever it takes. And she hugged her and walked away. That woman saw Jesus that day. In a moment where she had no right to see him. I was in awe, because I don't know that I would have said that. Matter of fact, I'm 100% sure, based on who it was, that I would have said something way different. The person that she said that to was my child. She's lucky I left the room. Because in that moment, I had hate in my heart. I'm not ashamed to say it, because hate exists in our heart. It's what we do with it that matters. I know that I'm a broken vessel, that I am not some perfect human being standing up here trying to tell you to be better. I'm a broken vessel that still struggles with hate and anger. I know that about me. I'm Irish. We're mad.
That's right.
I'm also Irish, and we know how to party. When you mix the two, blood will flow. Let us stir up one another. Let us look in the face of hate and say, I love you, we'll fix this, whatever it takes. Let us look in the face of evil, which is the cause of hate, and stare it down. We have to be a church that does that. We have to be a church that doesn't segregate based on race, based on economics, based on lifestyle choices, based off anything. Because what God has called us to do, and if you're ever wondering why God hasn't come back and taken his church, because if we've ever needed it, it's right now, it's because we are not done yet. We don't know. So we've got to be moving towards it without knowing where we're going or when we're going to get there. Some of us are going to get there the easy way, when we leave this earth. Some of us are not going to live to see it. All of us might not live to see it. It might happen when we leave here today. We don't know. That's not a scare tactic. We just don't know. And anybody who says that they think they know isn't reading the same Bible I am. Jesus was asked directly what it was. He goes, you don't know. Heck, I don't know. This is what I want from you. Go out, make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Sometimes we look at that and we think that we've got to go grab someone, manage their spiritual growth, make sure they get baptized, and then turn them into somebody who's creating other disciples. And that's the point of that passage. Yes. But that word baptized in that passage is not the same thing that you're thinking about. It means to blot until it's covered. That is not an instant soaking. If you grabbed a bottle of ink and a handkerchief, and you took the time to cover a human being entirely in ink, you're going to quit before it happens. That's the call. Don't stop. There's no reachable goal. There's no place where you can land and you can say, okay, I'm done, right? This isn't George Washington where you can say, I want to live in a place that I have been promised. And then he quotes Micah in his exit speech. And he talks about, we all have been told we're going to have a tree that we can sit under when our work is done. I love that he used that. I hate that he used it that way. Because he didn't say, your work is done, George. He said, you're just not going to be president anymore. That's it. We have a systemic problem. We hang on to things because they're comfortable and nurturing, and we know them. We've been taught them our whole lives. I have studied each founding father individually. I'm a dork, I'm a nerd, I know. There are two that I line up with John Adams and Alexander Hamilton, two of the least liked founding fathers in history. Why? Because I would have been the least liked founding father if I were one of them.
Yeah, yes.
Bold, brash, blunt, and knew that it needed to be different.
And we all agree.
Okay? We knew when we started this country that it wasn't enough. It needed to be different. And we know today in this country and in the world, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about America because that's where our lives are, right? We give to Caesar what is due to Caesar. That's Jesus' words. We give to the kingdom everything. That doesn't mean go sell everything and give it all away. That doesn't mean every day you need to be at the church doing something. That doesn't mean you have to sign up for every little thing. We love that, thank you, but you don't have to do that. That's not what he's saying. Draw near to him. And then run the marathon that shows him. And we do that together. Everything we do is together. I'm going to end with jumping over to 32. Because what 32 through 39 shows us, it shows us a couple of things. One, it gives a warning that this isn't a light switch that's just going to make you perfect and you're going to know exactly what. But it also gives us the encouragement that we need to focus on as we see it. It is a dreadful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Remember those early days after you had received the light when you endured in a great conflict full of suffering? They had to sell all their stuff and live together so they could stay alive. The purpose of that passage, when the church sold everything and moved into a commune, was a self-preservation moment. Alone, they were dead. Together, they at least had a chance. Okay? And it's important that they did not start that suffering until they received the light. This is a warning, guys. I talk about it all the time. When you accept Christ as your personal Savior, you are not accepting a fix to all of your problems. You are still going to deal with tragedy, suffering, trials. We're not immune because we know the living God. We're just more well equipped to traverse it. Got to see that in action. Crystal's grandmother passed away this week, and you got to see the difference in those that walk in the light and those that don't know the light, and just how they walk through it. I just wanted to sit in the corner and watch it. It's pretty much what I did. But it was amazing. You can see it. At other times, you stood side by side with those who were so treated. You suffered along with those in prison and joyfully accepted the confiscation of your property because you knew that you yourselves had better and lasting possessions. So do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. For in just a little while, He who is coming will come and will not delay. But my righteous one will live by faith, and I take no pleasure in the one who shrinks back. But we do not belong to those who shrink back and are destroyed, but those who have faith and are saved. There are a lot of issues that are on a lot of people's heart in this church. And one of the hardest pieces of advice that I get when somebody comes into me, they're all fired up about a cause, they're all fired up about a ministry, they're all fired up about things that they want to see change, they want to be a part of that change. And I always tell them, okay, but start preparing your hearts because you doing that is going to make it go away. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And what this passage is telling us is, it's a marathon worth running. And sometimes in that marathon, you're going to have a need to sprint. And sometimes you're going to have a need to conserve energy. Does that sound about right, Adam? Yeah. Okay. Adam pays people to let him exercise by running marathons. His words, not mine. When we have confidence, we have it together. What I am hoping and what I would love to see And what my prayer is, and please put this on your daily prayer list, is that we move forward and we're serving together, and we're hoping together, and we're loving together. This passage talks about patience. To win the race, you have to stay in the race. To effect actual change, you have to stay in the race. Nothing was ever won by quitting. Ever. Patience, endurance, perseverance. Together, love the Lord your God with all your hearts, mind, and soul. And love your neighbor as yourself. Serve together, hope together, and love together. That's why those words are just about everything we have here at VCF. Because that's the journey where we came from. And it's the marathon that we're running. And the first part of 2020 is a sprint. Buckle up. You just pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, I just pray and thank you for being who you are. And I thank you for being in this place. Being in this place and the people who have opened their lives up and set themselves apart to allow you to mend the broken vessel. Lord, I pray that you use this building of broken vessels and everybody who's not here today that normally is. And everybody that is yet to come into this building and be a part of what we're doing. I pray that you continue to call the broken to do your amazing work. I thank you for that truth. And I pray that we are a people who understands and embraces what it means to love and hope and serve together without conditions. Conditionally, we fail. And unconditionally, we can never fail. So I just pray that you move hearts today to an unconditional place of showing your love, your truth, your hope. And that it catches like the nasty virus that seems to be going around VCF. We just pray for everybody who's struggling with that. We pray for anybody who caught it by coming here today. And we just thank you for your healing in our lives. In your son's name, amen.